All right, folks, welcome back to On the Move, presented by Move Outdoors. If you haven't listened to last week's podcast, this is a continuation from last week's podcast where Derek and I are going over the first half of our Wyoming elk hunt earlier this year. This podcast is going to be the conclusion of the elk hunt, which is pretty interesting. So we hope you guys like it and enjoy it. And I'm going to give you about a 3-second break here before we jump into the new podcast so you can go back and listen to last week's podcast. And with that, we're going to pick up right where we left off. Hope you guys enjoy. So yeah, that big 6x6, unfortunately, because he didn't see anything, he didn't see a cow hanging out anywhere. He heard the cow calls, he came running out. He's like, "You should be a part of my harem." But then he didn't see a cow, and eventually just kind of slowly worked back into the woods, which was maybe 100 yards off private land. And I could hear him as the night went on. He just went farther into the private lands, bugling farther and farther back in there. And Derek met me up in that meadow then, and we ended up just taking a steep but the shortest way possible back to camp, or at least the least obtrusive way possible back to camp, with kind of a good game plan for Thursday night should we need it, as far as where we're going to set up. We knew where the bull was. We knew there's cows with the bull, so we decided, kind of the best bet in the morning and kind of all day really is to just chase the bull around and try and get within close enough distance that we can call some cows in. Which I guess leads us into Thursday morning, which was the second last day of the hunt. And same thing, got up real early, pretty much walked to roughly the same position as where we had hunted, or where we had glassed from, I should say, Wednesday morning. Except I was a little overzealous, and I wasn't expecting there to be an elk in the bottom of the meadow. And I keep walking, and Derek goes, "Hey, bull." I'm like, what do you mean there's a bull? I don't see any bull on the hillsides around us. What are you talking about? And he goes, "No, right down below us." And I don't even need binoculars at this point. There's that big 6x6 that I had the night before is 300 yards below us in the field, just staring at us at this point. Like, there's something walking towards me.
Yeah, granted, so like twilight, I would say, I guess I think that's the right term. Like twilight is like just when you can just see, right? So by the time we get to this point, it's 15, 20 minutes kind of after twilight. And to your defense, Zach, it was at that point where the sun was like just up enough that there's still a lot of shade in places, but there's even a little bit of darker shade in places. And that bull was standing like perfectly parallel with us coming down the hill, looking straight at us. Like he couldn't have been more straight as a freaking arrow. And we saw the full width of him. And he's down in this corner of the field, which is the same field that we were expecting to see elk on the morning previous because of the night before's glassing activities. And so we spot him. He sees us, like we're out in middle of the not in the middle of the field, but we're so broadcast, like it's so easy for him to see us, and he definitely is onto us. He's pointing straight at us. So he turns his head, he starts going into the woods down in the corner, and lo and behold, that mature cow that we saw with him, when you saw with him that night previous up on that upper field, the story you just told, that same cow is right there with him, pops out of the woods. She wasn't in the field. She pops out of the woods, maybe, I don't know, 30 yards up the hill from him, and pops out into the field, goes right back the same trail that he just went in on. And at this point, we can hear him. We can hear his antlers banging off freaking trees and stuff. Like like not like aggressive, like he's running, but like you knew he was coming through there
Yep.
and probably bobbing and weaving and bang, bang, bang. Right. So at that point, that's when we're like, screw it. Let's just follow him. Let's just go in that
Yeah.
trail.
What do we
And
have to lose?
yeah, we have nothing to lose. It's Thursday. Our last day to hunt is Friday. And our plan is to do a lot of travel back to Iowa, 12 hours on Saturday, just knock it all out on Saturday. So we have Thursday and Friday. It's Thursday morning. We're like, what do we have to lose? We go back that trail. We just start walking back the trail. You know, seeing some older sign, of course, and obviously this is a pretty worn trail. Like they come out into the field that way pretty often, it would seem. Busted branches from bull elk and walking through there and all that, and then that's when the where we alluded to earlier on the timing of like trying to analyze scat and like how old it is. That's when we ran across it. Like, and you even made the comment. You turned around to me and you're like, "You ain't gonna get any fresher than that." And that's when
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." And then that's when I made that mental note. Like, this shit looks just as green as the grass that they're out there eating because
Yep.
it has that weird like I don't know if it's slime or what to it, but like it just it's wet. You know,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
wet. Like
You
it's
can tell
not.
that it's super fresh.
Yeah, super fresh. Like it was that cow that dropped that right there on that trail because that's where we saw him go in. So that's where we made that connection. And then so that trail basically went in, I don't know, I'd call it 75-ish, maybe 100 yards into like a clear cut area. And I I think that area, if I'm not mistaken, Zach, it looks like they cut some trees down, but I don't know if they leave them lay for a few years to kind of dry out or what, and then come back and get them. But I don't know. There was a lot of trees down in that clear cut, but like the elk were definitely using that area. There was
Oh,
trails through it,
absolutely.
hopping over logs, like the
We came
random
across a
pine
couple
tree.
beds that were very clearly beds that were used within the last couple days.
Yeah, like beds you could pick hair out of, for sure, and
Yep.
like there'd be scat around them, but not like that green slimy, like not that super fresh scat or whatever. But yeah, so it was pretty obvious walking in there, like that's a clear cut. It's on the edge of that grazing field. Plus, even as we're walking back in there, that bull is bugling all morning. Like he's going
Oh
off.
yeah.
Like he went back in the woods, but he's not shut up. Like he's bugling, and we can kind of figure where he's kind of moving. And he went like down across the creek and was just on the other side of the creek and working the other part of the mountain range there where that one finger was. Just below the fields that we were sitting on the night prior. So that's where we came to the realization like this is like his area. And we saw rubs that had to be his, like
Had to
trees
be.
had trees like 10 inches, 12 inches plus in diameter, in my opinion, that were just thrashed. And I'm 6'4", and they're like coming up to my chin, if not even a little higher than that. Like had to be his rubs. So it seemed like that was like his area. And again, with that intel that like that cow was hanging out with him, like you could tell like she wanted to breed him, but she wasn't like in heat or anything. I don't think. I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know their whole rut stuff and their
I don't
gait.
think the cows normally go into heat until like mid to late September, maybe even early October.
Yeah, but it was just odd, right? Like she was hanging out with him, you know, and like we were essentially chasing him to get to her, and he was bugling and moving a little bit and bugling, and then he kind of shut up around 9:30-ish, 10
Yeah,
maybe.
I'd say around 9:30 he kind of shut up, and I think he bugled once, maybe twice between 9:30 and like 11:15, 11:30.
So it was almost like turkey hunting. Like
Yeah, it
you
was.
could
Yeah.
kind of locate him, and then we'd try to move a little closer, and then it seemed like he was moving away or moving some weird direction we didn't expect. And then we move a little closer once we heard a bugle, and then he shut up, and then I think we sat there for like an hour, hour and a half, just like, well, if he shut up right there, maybe he's just sitting right there.
Yep.
So, um, yeah, maybe even at that point we moved a little closer, but we weren't in terrain where it was like, I mean, we were still glassing from like where we sat down to like try to chill for a second and see if he'd bugle again. Like we can't see anything, and that it was a little bit hotter that day, so it was like dry and like sticks were cracking like crazy. So we didn't necessarily like try to push and make a move on them with what we thought, that time when they were just bedding, like bedding down, I would say. Um,
Yep.
and what did we do from there? I don't really remember, to be honest with you, Zach. After that
We
spot,
kind
we
of
chilled for a little bit, drank some water, ate a Cliff Bar or two.
so we,
And
we sat down there for a little while, and then he bugled maybe 200 yards ahead of us. And our first thought was, oh my God, we better get up there. And we booked it across that kind of clear cut, blow down kind of situation. And we got to a spot where it was a little more open timber. And we got up on a point and we heard him bugling ahead, up another maybe 100 yards ahead of us. So we
oh
started
yeah, like
working our way up there.
kind of like he was working up that same draw from the night before. So is where
Yeah, exactly.
where we were in fields kind of above that the night before.
Yep.
This point in the morning, we were coming almost attacking from the bottom and like trying to chase him up the bottom. And it
Yep.
seemed like he almost was working that same kind of path, like moving up the holler, like up
And
the
that's something I should mention to the listeners is we were very aware of the thermals at this point. So we're basically trying to match the elevation that this bull is because we don't want to get below him because we know if we get below him, we're going to blow him out. So as he moves up, we're trying to move up with him. And we get to a spot, then we're sneaking up and we can hear cows mewing ahead of us. And I throw out a couple cow calls and they're responding to the cow calls, but they're not coming in. And then
Yeah, because so you're saying, yeah, because that was still early enough in the morning where the air hadn't quite heated up enough, or at least the way that one finger, that mountain, the sun had to come up over that. So even though it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock, it seemed like the thermals were still kind of pulling down. Like, yeah, the wind was swirling, but it seemed like just where we were in that clear cut, like, I don't know, it just seemed like the thermals were kind of pulling down,
yep,
right? That's what, and
yep,
then we tried to kind of move with the creek because the thermals were, it seemed like we're kind of going towards the creek, right? That lowest
yep.
pressure mediation, that cooler area. So they were like kind of
We
following
got
that.
that pre-existing flow of cold stream water that's just
Yeah,
pulling all that scent down.
I wish we had like a whiteboard or something because it, like, I know how we were talking about earlier, how the wind was definitely swirling really bad up towards the top of the mountain, but now we're at the bottom of the mountain and it's still kind of swirling, but I felt like we were able to kind of pinpoint that predominant wind a little bit more, or at least the milkweed seemed more consistent going a certain way. And since the wind might have been coming from the southwest, it seemed like predominantly we were on the south, or we were on the, yeah, we were on the southeast side of the mountain now, so it's like that we weren't getting crazy wind anymore, it was like kind of more above us. I would say the crazy wind would be. So the thermals were more in effect towards that bottom of the mountain than they were at the top. Would you agree with that, Zach? Like thermals were more a factor towards the bottom of the mountain than they were at the top.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
So
And then, so we ended up following this bugling bull most of the morning. We kind of ended up sitting still for we sat still for a solid 2 hours, between 9:30 and 11:30, I'd say, just kind of waiting for him to bugle again because we were a little afraid of moving a little too close and blowing him out of the area before we got the chance.
yeah, because
So,
the clear cut went like almost all the way to the creek, and it
yep,
sounded like he was just on the other side of the creek. So we knew we were screwed visually, moving like directly across the clear cut towards him. So that's where we that's where we hunkered down, kind of behind like some pine trees that were still growing up in the clear cut, and just again, it's almost like turkey hunting. Like you want to keep kind of hearing him so you can make moves and kind of get ahead of him and then cut him off. And that's where we were like, I would say we weren't super aggressive that morning. We were just kind of playing it cool a little
yep,
bit and just kind of playing it out because we didn't want him to know that we followed him in that trail that we
yeah,
went on and followed
exactly,
him.
exactly,
Um,
and
And it
and
sounded like he wasn't making a bat out of hell trying to get away from us. He just sounded like I'm going back into my home territory. I'm not worried about these guys. I'm just going to do my thing. And we wanted to keep it that way. Like we didn't want to push him or if he saw us again, we thought that that would be the end of it. Like then he would know we were chasing him because then he had 2 points of contact with us. And
yep,
that's not
that's too
we
many.
were looking to do. Yeah, so that's when we kind of pulled back and weren't quite as aggressive because again, from the cow calf incident a couple days prior, where's the cow at? We know where he's at. Where's the cow at? Is she lagging behind him? Is she on the
Yeah,
edge of the clear cut? Like,
she could be 200 yards behind him for all we know.
yeah, and we've got wind like semi-swirling thermals are more so playing the factor, but it's still not like dead consistent. So like can't push it too far at that point with that other data point, right? And also I think at that point too, like our thermals, because I almost think they were a little bit below us too. And our thermals were and the milkweed was kind of going their way, but not quite. But if the wind would have swirled just enough to give them that thermal effect and then swoop it back up to them, that would have been not good. So we were kind of at this like point where it's like it doesn't make sense to move forward. It makes more sense to just sit here and see if they move. And that was
Yeah.
I just wanted to hammer that home because like I'm all for being aggressive, but if if the odds
Well,
are
there's a
not
difference
if the
between
odds are
being
not in your
aggressive and being
favor,
stupid.
yeah, exactly. The odds are not in your favor, then you're being stupid. Right.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
yeah, you got to be aggressive, but you don't go like all in with like partial straight waiting on the river or whatever to draw you out. Like let's just
Exactly.
hold back for a second. We're not and this isn't a bluffing game. Like we have to play this right. Um
And that's where we waited for the bull to kind of bugle a couple times.
We
And every
waited for him
time
to wake up, basically. It seemed like
yeah,
he went to sleep, and we waited for him to wake up, and it took a little bit of time, but he did. And when he did, right, we didn't hear him till he started working up that draw. So he
yep.
started working up the draw before he even bugled it. It's not like he woke up in his bed and started bugling. Like he worked up the draw a little bit and then bugled
And
again
then started.
that time later. So
Yep.
that's where, and then that again, that draw kind of comes like this. So he was working up the one side. So we circled around the clear cut, tried to come up the other side, hoping that any thermals, at that point, they were starting to get warmer and maybe try to work up the hill.
They
But
were definitely being more consistent uphill at that point. Because this was probably 11:45, 12 o'clock when this started happening.
yeah, exactly. It was like just after lunch, kind of. And since the thermals are coming up the draw now, it's like if we work this side of the draw and he's working that side, maybe, we stay on this side, our thermals are going up straight up this draw, or they're dipping down into that with the air moving up the deeper part of the draw. Essentially, his thermals are like what he would be experiencing over on this hill. Everything would either be getting sucked down or flowed up, not to him. Like he's
Away from him.
over
Yeah.
here and we're over here, but they would be either flowing up the middle or flowing up the finger that we were on.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, what did we do? We started working up that side of the draw, I don't know, a couple 100 yards, and then started hearing that mewing, I think.
Yeah. We started hearing the mewing, and at first it was probably like 75 yards in front of us or so. We were hearing the mewing, and we got ready. I mean, we ducked behind a couple pine trees. We both loaded our bows. We were ready, watching just in case something popped out. And nothing popped out. It got quiet. We waited there probably like 5-ish minutes, and the bull bugled farther away. So we said,
Yep,
okay,
he started working further up this side of the draw. He
so
never crossed
we
it or
matched it.
anything. He just kept going up. He kept going up that side of the draw.
Yep. And we decided we were gonna match him. So we moved up probably 75, maybe 100 yards.
Yeah, we just followed him on the opposite side. Is
Yeah.
what we did.
And we so I was the one with the call. Um Unfortunately for Derek, I was in front of him, and I just did a couple mews, and all of a sudden there was a mew maybe 60 yards below us. Maybe. I mean, it was
With what seemed like was in the bottom of the draw. Because
yeah.
we're over here again, remember? And that
Yep.
we're chasing that bull over here, and we're over here, and it
Yep.
seemed like that mew came from like it seemed like it was crossing the draw, and we're like, oh, maybe it's that cow, maybe
Yeah.
it's that big mature cow, kind of working her way up this side of the draw for some reason. Um,
And
and we didn't know necessarily the terrain because we hadn't walked it or hiked it yet right in front of us, but we could clearly see that. Like you could clearly
that
see
like
draw.
V
Like
kind
it
of,
was
yeah, that
definitely
V of a
draw.
draw.
Yeah, you could definitely see that.
And
So
and we just kept mewing, and this thing kept mewing back at us. So Derek and I both got ready. I think we both got an arrow out, got an arrow knocked, got ready, and I tucked myself up against a pine tree. I'm pretty sure Derek tucked himself against a pine tree. You were probably what, 10-ish yards behind me at this point?
yeah, it was like 10 or 15 yards or so because directly, like if we're walking up the draw and to go down into it, like where we had to decide to stop there, directly to our left was super thick. So
Yep.
it was like and there was a bunch of dead blows right there and it was thick. So it's like nothing's going to walk like directly perpendicular up to us. It was either it was going to walk up in front of you or it was going to come from behind, which would where it
And
would have
walk
been
up
my
to you.
shot or
Yeah.
like, and I remember I kept looking back to see if something was coming from that way. And then, it didn't take long. Lo and behold, I see some brown movement coming kind of up through the thick stuff, but like skirting it, like we're talking about, because it was too thick to walk through. So like kind of skirting it and like coming up your way.
Yep.
And I think I'll let you take it from there. But I saw it before you did because you had that pine tree, like literally you were hiding right behind that pine tree, and I could kind of see through the thick stuff, but like there was a trail kind of going through the outskirts of it. And then, yeah, I'll let you take it from there because
So you had seen this elk coming, unknown to me at the time. Like I said, I'm tucked up against a pine tree, and I just hear sticks breaking, so I know there's something coming. And I keep mewing, and I hear it stop, and it stopped maybe 10 to 15 yards from me. I mean, it was close when it stopped, and it let out a mew. And I mewed, and I heard it start walking again, and I instantly just clicked record on the GoPro and yanked my bow back, basically. And I'm at full draw now as this elk comes around the corner, and my pins are set for 30, 40, 50 at this point. It's technically like 33, 42, 50, or whatever it actually is, but it doesn't really matter. The point is, this thing is at like 7 yards, and my pins are not set for anything close. So I just kind of drop the pin where I think it should go, and this thing's still walking, and I touch off the release. I mean, there's an elk at 7 yards. I'm hyped up. My heart rate's through the roof. I'm excited. And what I realize as soon as I touch off the release is, holy crap, I just liver shot this thing. I did not make a good shot. 100% my fault. Not an equipment failure. Definitely a me failure. And I tried to knock another arrow, maybe try and get another shot in it, and it just kept moving. I tried doing a couple of soft cow calf calls, and it kept moving. And Derek makes a comment to me, dude, did you shoot it in the ass? And I was like, no, no chance I shot it in the ass. The entrance was definitely back of lungs or liver, one of the two. And there's blood instantly. We're real excited. This is Thursday. We've been hunting hard now for like 5 days straight. We finally got an elk within range. We touched a shot off. We got blood. We're excited. And yeah, we're seeing blood right at impact. And Derek can attest to this. I'm pretty realistic when it comes to my shots. I generally have a pretty good sense of where I hit the animal. My exit might not be 100% accurate, but I'm pretty accurate with where I hit the animal. And I knew that it was not a great shot, and we need to give the thing time. So I purposely told Derek, like, man, we can go like 30 yards just to make sure that there's blood. But then I want to sit here and I want to wait at least an hour. And in that time frame, we did find blood up to, I think it was about 30, 40 yards before I said, all right, I don't want to go any farther. I want to give it time. And we went back to pretty much point of impact. I called my dad, which is my ritual pretty much every time. Whenever I shoot an animal, the first phone call's my dad. Always and forever. The first phone call's my dad. Doesn't matter who I'm hunting with, where I'm hunting, what I'm hunting. First phone call's my dad. And I called my dad, talked to him about it a little bit, talked to Derek about it a little bit, and we were all kind of fairly confident that it was a better shot than maybe I thought it was. So we decided to start blood trailing after probably an hour and a half. And we were following blood for 250-ish yards or so, and it was decent blood. It was pretty decent blood.
But no arrow at this point.
No arrow at this point. And I know the elk carried my arrow with it because I saw it when it was running away. It had the arrow, pretty much everything but the fletching sticking out of it, which was really surprising. But it kept going and going and going. And after about 250 yards on the trail, we found the arrow. And we found this arrow, tracked maybe another 50 yards, saw where the elk went down through another creek bottom and went up the other side, and just called it quits right there. I personally called it quits. I knew at this point My shot wasn't as good as I initially. So I thought initially it was a liver shot. I kind of got convinced then that maybe it was a little better, and I should have trusted my initial instinct. We tracked it for about a total of 275, maybe 300 yards, and realized we need to give this thing time. It might not be dead yet. Let's back out. And just because of how close in proximity it was at this point to private, we were probably within 300 yards of private at this point, and just knowing that I didn't put the best shot on it, I went ahead and called a dog. I saved screenshots of the landowner names and landowner phone numbers off of OnX, and yeah, I went back to camp. Derek actually continued hunting that night, so I'll let Derek talk about how his hunt went that night. But I went back to camp, went back to town, then got some ice for the cooler because at this point I knew it was a dead elk. It was just a matter of finding it, and then yeah, I kind of went back to town, got some supplies, got some more water. We were running low on water, and let Derek hunt for the night. So Derek, how'd your hunt go that night?
Well, hold on before we jump into that, because honestly, I don't really remember that as much because I was a little more focused on you finding your elk. Can we dive a little more into the evidence on the arrow? Because I think that was a big factor in deciding to call the dog too, because you saw a little bit of gut material, but you saw liver blood on the arrow. I think we kind of skimmed over that. So
You're right, we did.
let's
did.
touch on that. Like, because that was a big point where we were like, you know what? Who knows how far this thing has gone? Yes, we took the info from the arrow, but we went like 50 yards farther because there was another draw. Like, there was another
Yep.
draw, and we
Yep.
were standing on one side of the draw, glassing over to the other, and we could see the same type of drop blood trail, like nothing, like it. The trail just kind of kept going. It wasn't like nothing, no beds, no. We didn't find anything where it laid down, etc. It just, we could still see the same trail across the draw, and across that little draw, it was a smaller draw, but across that draw, I mean, you were able to glass blood, but then you were able to glass basically almost the fence of private and public.
Yeah, no,
So
you're absolutely right there. So
I think that whole culmination of intel was, especially the arrow too, was where you really had to sit there and consider the dog.
yeah, so I will admit that initially I thought maybe I did like a back of lung liver shot, and that was exactly what I hit, and I didn't hit anything else. After we finally found the arrow, after about 250 yards, like I said, there was gut material on the back of the arrow, basically stomach contents, like half digested food from an elk. And at that point, I instantly decided, you know what? This is a very large animal. I don't have experience tracking in this sort of circumstances. You know, I've been fortunate. There's been decent blood to this point, but there's no guarantee that there's going to be decent blood farther on down the trail. I'm going to go ahead and do the proactive thing. It's legal in Wyoming to call a tracking dog. I'm going to call a tracking dog. So thankfully, Kurt came up from Colorado. It was about an hour and a half drive for him, and he agreed to come up, meet me the next morning. We decided we were going to let it lay that night, and but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I thought we could track that animal that day until we ran into that little bit of gut content on the back half of the fletchings, and then just from what I know about tracking and just not wanting to push this animal any farther, not wanting to risk the chance of not recovering it, I decided that it was better to back out and call a dog for the next day and see if that dog could help me find it.
Yeah, because I mean, when you get in these situations, right, there's a lot of hype, a lot of excitement. Like, you want to find the animal, but you have to bring yourself back down to earth and just take in all the intel that you have, right? And that's where the arrow came in. That's where the knowing that we were right on public private line, like it, if you want to call a dog, you can't be going over there and stomping all over the area that you're trying to take a point to go further from, right? So you have to be reserved in that aspect. Like there's a lot of different variables to consider there, right, Zach? I mean, like, I don't want to repeat them, but you got the arrow, you got the visual from the glassing, you've got the fact that if you want to call a dog, you don't want to go stomping all over the place. You can't obviously just hop over a fence and go onto private land. Like that takes some work. Um, the fact of what you got off of the arrow, you you knew it was evidence that even if you had a tracking dog right at that moment, that would have not been the right move because that thing probably needed more time, right?
Yep.
So, like, you have all these factors playing into one here, and that's basically what led you to the decision that it would be smarter to do next morning. Um, Obviously, there's the threat of predators in the area, but from our camping night experiences, we had not heard any predators over that way.
Yep.
No coyotes over that way, etc. So we thought we were good in that aspect. Um, and I don't know. I think it's just the thing for me is just driving home. Like you have to take in all these different pieces of the chessboard or take in all these different pieces of intel and funnel them down into the decision that needs
Yeah,
to be made.
I think you made a great analogy there. I mean, it kind of is like playing chess. You can't just look at your next move. You got to be thinking 4 or 5 moves ahead of time. I mean,
Right.
you really do in situations like this. You can't think about, well, I'll keep going. I'll keep following blood until I push it. Because after you push it, it might be too late. You got to think about, all right, if I follow blood and I push this animal, it could run onto, however many different properties. It could run however far. And every time you push this animal, the odds of finding it go down. Like that's a well documented thing. Every time you push a poorly hit animal, the odds of finding it go down. So what kept echoing in my head as we hit that blood in the bottom going up the other side was when in doubt, back out. When in doubt, back out. When in doubt, back out. And I'm glad that I backed out, in all honesty. I don't
That
want to
works.
spoil how it
That
ends,
works
but I'm
with
glad I
that
backed
works
out.
with women too.
Yeah, if there's any doubt, if she's a certain level of crazy and you got doubt in your head, back out, man, back out.
Back out. But yeah. But yeah, no, it was, and as we'll come to, I mean, it was 100% the right decision because, again, too, like, yes, we're getting close to the private line, but we don't know what's just over the private line. I mean, we don't know. Like, has there been prescribed burns on this side of the public? And now, if you hop over the fence, like we can try and glass, but we don't want to push it. Like, is that environment actually completely different? Like on that other side of the fence because it's private and like you don't want to overdo it, and it just we came to the right decision, and you came to the right decision. And I know that was a very tough decision because you have so much anxiety for, and then too, you don't want the animal to suffer, right? Like that's why we all try to work on our accuracy and make good shots. Like we want everything to be swift and just we want a swift kill. Like, it's not about the animal suffering whatsoever, or any of that. Like, but sometimes that's not the reality. And
I think if you're bow hunting long enough, if you're bow hunting long enough, unfortunately, you're gonna make a bad shot, and that's kind of the reality of bow hunting and just hunting in general. The amount of I would venture a guess that the amount of people out there that have you know made nothing but good shots in their hunting career is a very small number of people, and
well, I would
you
call
either
them
haven't
liars.
shot a lot of animals
I'd call
or you're
them,
lying.
yeah, I was gonna say, that's what I'm saying. I'd call them liars.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
nobody hula hoops the learning curve there for sure. Like,
Yeah.
it's this whole sport is nothing but a learning curve.
And I'm no stranger to shooting animals with the bow. I mean, the last oh goodness, the last 3 years I've probably got almost 20-ish animals with my bow over the last 3 years. I had a stellar year a couple of years ago. I shot 7 animals with my bow, and I think I average about 4 with my bow a year. So I guess 20 is a bit of an exaggeration, maybe 15. But it's not like I'm new to shooting stuff with my bow. It's just, sometimes you make a bad shot. You envision stuff differently in your head. Even watching the video of the shot now that I'm back at home, I can sit on the computer and review the video. I'm like, oh my goodness, that thing was quartered too hard. But in my mind, in the moment, I'm like, that thing's broadside. Shoot it. Like, you're not going to get a better shot opportunity than this right here. What are you waiting for? And
Yeah,
it
especially at 7 yards. I mean, how much time do you really have?
exactly.
That thing is
Exactly.
still moving closer to you. It hasn't seen you yet. You're at full draw. Like, if it keeps moving one way, how long are you going to be able to move this way with it until it sees you? You have to make that decision, and you make that decision right there, because as a bow hunter, you understand that when that thing's in range, it's close. And you're at full draw, and you have very little time for screwing the fuck up. So you got to make a decision, and you make a decision. Like, and you're on the ground too. You're not in the tree stand or whatever. Like, you're on the ground. Like, you're at eye level with this thing, you know? Like, you have to, it's like like, you have to aggressively just pull the trigger in a way. Like, because the way it laid out for you, for sure, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you got to take the opportunities that are presented to you in life. And like you had said earlier, I mean, this is Thursday. Friday's our last day. And I'm fully convinced that this was really the only opportunity we were going to get. The only true opportunity.
Well, at that point, after realizing, like, yeah, this isn't just like Disney World, and there's cows running around all over the place, and
Yep.
right, like, that was our intel, and this was the opportunity that we had been hunting for, and it was there, and you have no other decision but to take the shot. I mean,
Yeah.
for us to not go home empty-handed and within total legality of the tags that we have, that's what it was, and that's what it is, and
Yeah.
it's right there. And that whole, all the hype, all the planning, all the everything up to that point that we had talked about months prior, like, we need this, we need that, blah blah. Everything comes down right to that moment, right? Like,
Isn't that
right
so
to that
funny?
point.
Isn't that
It,
so funny how months of planning comes down to 5 seconds?
it comes down right to that moment. And I think you'd be remiss to not take the opportunity, right? Like, the opportunity's there. Like, don't screw it up, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think about that. Like, I know I think about that personally as a constant reminder. It's like, I don't. The shot doesn't have to be. It's just a perfect, like, wide open, beautiful, picturesque shot. Like when you get that thing in a window of opportunity, you have to take the opportunity of a lifetime and the lifetime of the opportunity. And
Ooh, that's good.
that's like, you might not know what that's going to look like until it happens right there. And you have to be able to recognize that. And it might not be as clean as you think it is. Like, we all have fantasy. Yeah, something coming out right on a food plot, awesome shot, nothing in my way, whatever. But sometimes you got to thread the needle. And you came down to a point where you had to not necessarily thread the needle in that analogical sense, but like, you did not have much of a window beyond when the time you took the shot, right?
Agreed.
You
Agreed.
had to take the shot. You took the shot, and then the viewers will probably see from the GoPro footage. I don't know if you're going to interject it here or what,
Yep.
but it, like, everything happens so fast.
Yeah. So
Like
fast.
like you said, months and months of planning, if not years, trying to figure this out. If we were on trying to get bull tags, it would be years. Like, you you have to take the opportunity when it's there, and that's what you did. And I think, yeah, it was the coolest thing for me was to see you play it smart. You played it very smart. You took in all the data. We tracked the blood. We left trails. We made Onyx tracks. We did all this. We realized where we were on public versus private. We didn't push anything, and just read all the details of what was laid before us and made the decision to call Kurt. What was Kurt's last name? Do you remember?
I don't. I'd have to look it up quick. I know it's a big last name. It's a big last name that honestly, even if I had it in front of me, I'd be afraid of mispronouncing. But
Wow.
but
We'll
Kurt
give
was a
Kurt.
heck of a guy. Kurt was
Yeah,
an absolute like saint of a guy, salt of the earth dude, 100% one of the best people I've ever met in my life. Yeah, so like you said, I'm standing on top of a log, desperately trying to get service at this point. And I go on unitedbloodtrackers.org, which I know from speaking previously with Shane Simpson. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, I highly suggest you go back and listen to our podcast with Shane Simpson about his new app that he came out with, Tracker. That should be episode 9 on our podcast. And unfortunately, Tracker was not available for iPhone at this point. So I used unitedbloodtrackers.org, put in my location on the Find a Tracker platform, and basically any tracker within an accepted radius will show up there. And in this part of Wyoming, there was only 5 trackers that showed up. And I called the first 3 of them. One of them was already on another track and not available. One of them was also not available. Another one of them just didn't answer. And the last one that I called was Kurt. And Kurt thankfully answered, picked up the phone on the first phone call, was very interested in the track. I was able to send him blood. And because of talking to Shane Simpson about this previously, I kind of knew the procedure here. I knew we shouldn't go any farther. I was nervous about going any farther because I knew I put an iffy hit on the animal at this point. And Kurt graciously took the track. I mean, the dude drove like 70 miles in the morning, about an hour and a half to finally come meet me. Again, I met him through unitedbloodtrackers.org. Guy is a stand-up guy. If you're in Southeast Wyoming, Northeast Colorado, I highly suggest you give him a call. Him and his dog Rocky are awesome. And yeah, we met them the following morning at the nearest town, which is about 45 minutes away. We met them at the nearest town. Or sorry, I met them at the nearest town, not we. And kind of showed them the way back up the mountain. And we started tracking at probably, so we left the trucks at probably 7:30 in the morning. We got to first blood at probably 9:15, 9:30 in the morning, and started the track from there. And it was a long, long day. A lot of ups and downs. Once we got Rocky on the track, he basically followed to the end of the known blood trail in a minute and a half. I mean, it's kind of amazing what these dogs can do. He followed that blood trail to the end in about a minute and a half from where I knew it went to.
So, which basically to make it clear that so you guys started from first blood and basically did our track up to the arrow and then to that draw.
Yeah, and then to that draw, and Rocky went straight up over that draw, following blood, and then he kind of got off blood a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. And so what Kurt was having me doing was stay behind them and follow the blood trail, basically. So he was having me verify that Rocky was still on blood, and I'm following blood, probably 100 yards behind them or so, and eventually they get to a point where they radio me. They gave me a radio and said, look, we're at the property line. There was kind of two ranches that butted together at that point, basically where they were standing. And Kurt told me, I want you to call both ranchers and see if you can get permission to track this elk, because this elk is definitely across the line. And I called the one rancher. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a hold of them. And I called the other rancher, and that was an interesting story. The wife originally picked up, and she thought that I had poached the elk on their property and then was asking permission to, like, basically shot it over the line and was asking permission to go get it. And I had to explain to her that no, I had shot the elk on national forest, some 400 yards from her property, and that it was a cow instead of a bull. And she was not happy. Basically, the gist of our conversation was, I don't like that you're calling me. I'm going to talk to my husband and talk to Wyoming Fish and Game and see where we go from here. And I told her, okay, that's fine. When should I call you back? She told me to call back in about 10 minutes. Well, about 10 minutes later, as I was getting ready to call back, her husband actually gave me a call, which when the phone number came through, I assumed it was Wyoming Fish and Game. And I picked up, and I wish I could remember his name. I'm horrible with names, so I'm so sorry that I can't remember your name, sir. But he gave me permission to look for the elk, long story short. He had me explain to him everything that went on, the story of where I shot it, how the elk got to his property, the fact that it is a cow and not a bull. He kind of shared with me that they have a lot of issues with poachers and trespassers come rifle season, so they're not really a huge fan of hunters, which I can't blame them if they're dealing with that every year. But thankfully, he did give me permission to go onto his property to look for my elk. And to summarize a long story, I mean, we had trouble following the trail. Even the dog had trouble following the trail. And we got to a point where we were kind of exhausted. We were about 50 yards over the property line onto the property that we had permission to go onto at this point. And yeah, the dog was exhausted. The handler was exhausted. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon at this point. And we decided we were going to call it. I wasn't happy about it, but there's nothing I could do. They decided that the dog tracker and the dog were exhausted. They decided they were going to call it. So we looked at the map and decided that the best way to get back to the truck was to follow this drainage down and then basically follow it up the opposite side, go back to camp and walk out to the truck. And as we're following this drainage down, I just happened to see blood about 20 yards up the hill. And I told the tracker, and the tracker goes, "No way. All right. I didn't know that was there. Let's get the dog on it." And we got Rocky on it, and Rocky followed the blood for about 100 yards, got off it a little bit, but I saw where the blood was going, told Kurt, Rocky, he repositioned Rocky. Rocky got back on the blood, followed the blood for another 75 yards down into a little ditch Um, and we're heading down the property line at this point, basically. So we're really not going farther into their property. We're just kind of following the property line at this point. But we basically get to this little ditch. There's a creek running through it. Rocky lays down in the ditch. We filter some water, relax for a little, eat a Cliff Bar, and we're talking. We're like, man, there's blood right here. It's hard to say that we're going to give up hope at this point. We sat there for probably a good 10, 15 minutes, decided, all right, let's keep following the blood. We got up and we went not 100 yards farther, maybe 75 yards farther, and I'm still following the blood behind them. He's letting Rocky go off and do his thing, do his tracking, and all of a sudden I just hear Kurt scream, and I look up and he's got his hands up in the air and he's super excited, and I'm like, there's no way. And I'm pretty sure I floated over to Kurt at that point. Like, I've never moved so fast in my life, I don't think, especially over blowdown and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was on him in 0.3 seconds, giving him high fives and like out of my mind because my elk was laying right there. And I said in the video that hopefully you guys watched at this point. If not, please go watch the video. Man, I can't thank Kurt enough. I can't thank the fact that I had a positive mental attitude enough. I can't thank Derek enough. There's just so many people I need to thank, but certainly not the least of all is the good Lord above for just, he gave me one heck of a challenge, and I was able to overcome the adversity that he put in front of me, and was able to thankfully recover this elk and get about 80 pounds of beautiful, fresh Wyoming elk meat. And obviously I'm going to be sharing that with Derek, and I got a couple of people at work that are hoping for a pack or two, so I'll probably give them a pack or two of burger or cubes or something I don't care quite as much about, because they're certainly not getting the high quality steaks. Now Derek's going to get a couple high quality steaks, but the people at work, I don't know about that. They might get some burger or something, but yeah, I mean, I got about 80 pounds of elk meat now. I'm most of the way done butchering it as we're recording this, and I can't be thankful enough for the fact that we were just able to find it. I mean, it was probably the most challenging track job I've ever been on in my life. In fact, when Derek got down to us, I'm pretty sure my exact words were, "This was the most challenging track job I've ever been on in my life." And Kurt echoed the statement. He said that this was definitely the hardest track job him and his dog have ever been on. And Rocky did fantastic, and Kurt did fantastic, and I can't thank them both enough. And man, it was such an experience. I'm still speechless just thinking about it. I know when we got down to my elk, and this is getting a little long-winded, but when we got down to my elk, I called my dad. My dad's always the first phone call. Always the first phone call whenever I harvest an animal. And I remember I was thinking, I can be tough. I can avoid the emotions about this. And my dad picked up the phone and he goes, "Hello." And all I remember is my voice cracking real hard. And I'm like, "We found it." I mean, I'm just like fighting back tears to a degree I've never fought back tears in my life before. And it was one of, I'm not ashamed to admit, it was one of the most emotional moments of my life. The fact finding that elk, and just I'm like breaking down in tears. The dog tracker's right there, and I'm standing over my elk, the hardest earned animal I've ever had in my life. And it was a hell of an experience, man. It was a hell of an experience.
And I think, Zach, if you don't mind, I'll take it from here a little bit. I think the biggest takeaway from all that for you and for me and Kurt and everybody involved, it was like, if you're digging for gold, man, you don't know what the next 10 feet is. So you got to keep digging. You just got to keep digging, right? Like, you got to keep like the persistence and the just mindset that you have to have. Like the thing's bleeding. Like, it'd be very hard for it to live, especially with the evidence given at that point. And it's like, you've got to keep pushing. I know from my perspective, because I wasn't with you guys. You texted or no, I'm sorry. You called me at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon, and I was kind of on my like I hadn't been hearing nothing, no bugles, nothing like that or whatever, and it was a dead morning, and it was kind of just not what we've been experiencing the past few mornings, as you
Yep.
had heard. And from my perspective, you call me at 1:30, dogs whooped, I'm whooped, dog trackers whooped, et cetera, et cetera. And then it wasn't, yeah, I think you called me again at like 2:32 and you're like, bring an empty pack. And it's like, it was all that difference of pushing that little bit further. And
Absolutely.
you guys did it. What was funny about your situation was you did it like almost not intentionally, because you guys at that point were like, let's get out of here. But you stumbled back across something.
Yep.
But I think that's a big point that needs to be driven home is like, and it, of course, it depends on the scenario or what you're doing, but like, you don't know what that next 10 yards will do, man. Like, you got to keep pushing. Like, if you know, you have to be aggressive in your mindset of like, I'm gonna find this thing, or I'm gonna figure this out. Like, and in that scenario for you guys, like, I wish I could have been there to experience that moment with you, but I wasn't, unfortunately. But
I absolutely
I,
wish you were there too, man. I mean, that's my biggest regret of the trip is that you weren't able to be there with us.
but that's all right, because that, I mean, I, and I'm not worried about that whatsoever. It's just, I think for the listeners and et cetera, like, the biggest thing to drive home is like, man, it's hard to beat somebody that doesn't quit. And if you don't quit, you can get like, there's gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Like, just keep trying to find the end of the rainbow, or whatever stupid fuck, that's a dumbass fucking analogy, but whatever. But like, keep digging, right? Like, and you guys, it's when all hope seemed to be lost, you got that little bit of hope with that, just, oh, I see blood here, and like, it led to the outcome that we were all searching for that whole entire morning, after the miles and the tracking and all that. Like, it can be right around the fucking corner. Just
Don't give
don't
up.
quit and don't
Yeah.
stop. Just, you are way more capable of more than your brain would like to allude you to. And if you can get over that in your mind and just keep pushing and pushing, like, good shit can happen. And certainly
And
that good shit that happened, it took this trip from being like, man, this was an amazing experience. We didn't get anything, but I loved the experience, to like, I loved the experience, and oh shit, we fucking learned something. We walked out of this with a better mindset and a good understanding that like,
I
good
think
shit
this
will
trip
happen for you, man.
absolutely.
Just don't quit. Like,
Yeah,
it's
just
so
don't
easy.
quit.
It's easy and cliche to say, but like, don't it like
And
literally
from what
don't
we
quit.
experienced on that mountain, though, I mean, it's so easy to quit. It is so easy to quit. We could have went back at any of those points when we were shivering on that mountainside. We could have went back at any point, slept in the truck, went back to Laramie, got a hotel, drove that extra distance, said screw the morning hunt. I mean, there's so many instances on this trip that we could have quit. We could have given up. We could have said this is too hard. I mean, we were surviving on a severe calorie deficit. I mean, let's not sugarcoat this. We were living off of Cliff Bars, packaged tuna, and beef jerky. I mean, we certainly did not have a healthy, balanced diet by any means of it. We were burning 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day at a minimum and intaking maybe 1,500. And you
And
learn
let's
what you're made of on a trip like this.
well, and again, that's our fault for not understanding, you
It
know,
is. It is.
what
It totally
and,
is.
and certainly next time we would do it better. But yeah, that aspect of, well, this is what we got. So, I mean, you run what you brung, right?
Yeah.
The fucking drag racing saying, like, you run what you brung. So that was kind of our methodology going through all this. And yeah, man, I just I know from my perspective, I like one of the best feelings for me on the whole trip was when you said bring an empty pack, and I got to just fucking bulldoze down through fucking clear cut pine trees, all this shit. Like I had one objective was to get to the point, the Onyx point that you sent me, and
You
like
made
just like
amazing time, my
not
friend.
not caring about my noise, none of that. I didn't give a fuck. I was just bulldozing. I was like, I'm going straight to this. What is the fucking straightest point to this fucking point? And like just having that like just excitement for your boy, like just yeah, it
I,
was a calf, whatever. Who gives a fuck? We did
I
all
would
this shit completely DIY. Just went out there off of fucking YouTube and podcasts and trying to learn some shit and not knowing this area and whatever. Just the whole thing of trying to figure it the fuck out was like the best thing. It was the best thing because that it makes the fruit so much sweeter, like when you
Yep.
actually get it done. And yeah, no, I loved just bulldozing down through that clear cut. Like this is where it's at. I'm fucking getting there, and I got an empty pack. I'm light for once. Like I'm not hauling anything except water right now. Like that
I
was
would
such an awesome.
wager I would wager that your feeling there is pretty akin to my feeling recording you shooting your first buck. I
Oh,
mean, just like pure elation, like, oh my God, we did it. This is the greatest moment ever. I just want to go put my hands on it.
yeah, no, absolutely, dude. Like just I like I'm the type of person that I get just as excited for someone else's success as like my own. So like the fact that and it was the whole culmination of everything, right? Like I was like taking into consideration that, I was still kind of hunting and you called me at 1:30 and you're like, yeah, we're about to call this. It's whooped. You might as well go packing up camp. And that's what I did. I started walking back up towards camp and I packed up camp and I had my whole fucking camp like in my pack and like just sitting there and I was like about to start a fire and just wait for you. And then you call me like empty your pack, like come to this point. And I it didn't take me very long to empty my fucking pack, let me tell you that. Like I was so fucking ecstatic, dude, because it's like because I was there with you. Like I saw what happened. Like there was absolutely zero like speculation on my point. Like I saw what happened. I saw the shot. I saw the exit and the arrow sticking out of its ass. That's why I asked if you shot it in the ass because it didn't fully exit. It was coming out of that rear quarter because it was quartering to you so hard at 7 yards and the blood tracking and you calling the dog and just you name it, boom, 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 boom. All these situations that happen, right? Like, and you have to keep a calm mindset and try to make logical decisions based on the intel that you gather as you go with through these situations. And it just when everything comes to a point where it's like we found success and it's like you it's like, you know that saying, like when you're about to get in a car accident or something and your life flashes before your eyes or whatever. Like for me, the when I'm hunting and I'm with somebody or it's me or whatever, and there's success that's had, it's like I get that culmination of like all the trial and tribulations to get to that point.
Yep.
And then I realize, like, there it is.
Yeah.
Like that was the goal. And now the
That
goal
was
is,
that.
yeah, right. It funneled down to that point and you got the goal that you were searching for. And our goal, obviously, our goal going out there, of course, is we both want two mature cow elks and all this and that. And it's like, okay, well, what does the reality give you? The reality gives you first DIY hunt, et cetera, et cetera. And okay, you have cow calf tags. One guy walks out with a calf. And even Kurt said it too. I mean, it like your expectations of what can happen is way up here, but what you might be given might be way down here, and you have to still appreciate that. You have to appreciate everything you went to, at least to get to what you're given. And I think at that point, like everything just came together, and I couldn't have been happier fucking packing that shit out with you, dude. That was such an awesome experience. Had a great week. I mean, yeah, again, thank God for Kurt and his dog Rocky. I mean, they were
I,
that.
I still gotta bug him for some of those pictures we took back at the truck. I gotta message him and make sure he sends those over. He hasn't sent them yet. But yeah, man. I mean, it was such a learning curve, such an awesome experience. But I think
For,
I think
for
we've
our
touched
first
on it pretty
time,
well. But
for our first time, I couldn't have asked for anything better.
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The only thing I would change about this hunt is I wish I had a bull tag, because I feel like we could have, just because of the amount of bulls that we saw, I feel like we almost would have done better with a bull tag.
I,
But
it'd have
I'm
been
certainly
easier.
not complaining. I mean, I am elated that I was able to shoot a calf. Um, and something the listeners might not know. I mean, that calf elk is giving me more meat than a mature Pennsylvania buck. I mean, it is a lot of meat on a calf elk. Let's not pretend that this is like shooting a 40-pound fawn or something, or a 60-pound fawn or something where you're going to get like 12 pounds of meat. I'm still getting 60, 70, 80 pounds of meat off this thing. I haven't measured exactly, or I haven't weighed, I should say, how much meat I'm actually getting, but it is significant. It is more meat than I got off of my mature 3.5-year-old Pennsylvania buck last year. And I can tell you that right off the bat.
Yeah, and it's just you know, again with the first time stuff, it's the whole culmination of the entire experience, right? Like, and I'll be honest, like I'm not a guy that I I didn't know anything about elk hunting. I don't know, like I'm not in that. I wasn't that intrigued. I have not bought preference points anywhere. I haven't done any of that because none of it was that intriguing to me. It was, oh, it's just a long trip out there. You know, maybe you'll be successful, whatever. But I like this whole trip just brought it back around for me that like, yeah, this was fucking one of the most awesome things that I've ever done. And it didn't matter if we killed anything. It was just the fact that we pushed ourselves to go in, camp, you know, no shower, blah, 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 all this and that. Not like you're rationing your food, you're rationing your water. Like it brings you back down to earth of like what is really important in life. And I mean, certainly from here, I mean, I'm going to be buying preference points like an MFer, but
Good. You better buy yourself some Wyoming preference points here because
But it
we're
just
going on
won't.
an elk hunt, a bull elk hunt in a couple of years, and I got some intel on an area that's pretty good.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to drive home is just like just like get out of your comfort zone or get out of what you think you know, go experience something, and then make a decision if it's right, something you want to do for the rest of your life or not. Like I want to do that for the rest of my life. Like,
Absolutely.
like I I don't it was just kind of like a wake up call to like this is out there. You can go chase that if you want,
So
you
so
know.
that's one of the big things I take away from this hunt is like a lot of people think chasing elk is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And maybe depending
Especially where we're from, Pennsylvania,
yeah, I
because
mean Pennsylvanians think elk is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I just want to stress, I mean, yeah, this is a cow calf tag. This is a cow calf tag. There's no hiding it. I'm not gonna lie about it. But it's 4 to 5 years of preference points to draw a Wyoming general tag for bulls. It's DIY over the counter for Colorado elk for archery season, and I think 2 of 3 or maybe 3 or 4 rifle seasons. And then Idaho, their draw system's kind of a little weird, but it is technically over the counter as long as you're in the queue fast enough. Utah is not horrible to draw. Montana's not horrible to draw. I mean, you can do these hunts you want to do. This was one of the greatest hunts of my life for the simple fact of I've been dreaming of hunting elk since I was 10 years old, probably. I've been dreaming about chasing elk and listening to bugles while I'm running through the trees after them for 16 years at this point. And the fact that I was finally able to do it, regardless of the fact that I didn't have a bull tag in my pocket, I mean, this was one of the greatest experiences in the woods I've ever had. There is like, I just want to communicate to people that if there's a hunt you really want to do some research on it. I guarantee you can do it cheaper than you think you can. All in, I had to do the math earlier because I got some guy being a little rude on my personal Facebook page about the fact that I shot a calf elk. I think from that post, I believe it was $390-ish, all things considered. Hold on, I'll find the post here so I can make sure to not screw up the numbers. Okay, so it was $288 for the tag, a $15 application fee, $72 for an archery stamp, and $21.50 for the required conservation stamp. That's a total of $396.50 for an elk tag, which really isn't that bad, all things considered, when you figure that the state that I'm currently living in, which is Iowa, charges almost $700 for a non-resident deer tag. Not an elk tag, a deer tag. I paid sub $400 for a cow calf elk tag and was able to fill my freezer with, like I said before, 60, 70, 80, whatever it ends up being, pounds of elk meat. And I had an amazing experience with my buddy Derek, something that I'm assuming he's in the same boat. I'm going to cherish this memory until the day I die. I mean, this was one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. I've got so many memories from this. I wish I could go back and do it again tomorrow, honestly. It was awesome.
I'm right there with you, dude. I'm like back in my apartment here with all these fucking luxuries and shit, and I'm looking around at all this fucking crap. I'm like, you know, like I have 20 fucking spatulas over there. I have a couch. I have a recliner. I have like all this crap, and it's just like I I do not need any of this. Like all I needed was a spot to lay down and a nice pillow and a campfire and a little bit of food and water. And
Yep.
like that was the most relieving thing ever. just not being like just having the bare necessities and like loving it, like because it releases you from all this other shit that you have in your life,
Yeah.
these possessions, these things, these like bills and whatever, just like fuck it all. Like we're here, we're in the woods. All we care about is being a little bit warm by the fire and having a spot to, sit down for a second because we've been hiking all day, sucking down water and eating Clif bars. And it's like it brings you back around to reality of like what is actually important. You know, I mean it.
I always say on trips like this, you learn more about yourself than anything else. You really do. You learn about your limits, you learn about you have so much time to think on these kind of trips. That you're able to make rational decisions about your life outside of these trips, and you can kind of think about these situations and really figure out who you are as a person.
It's unplugging is what it is. You
It is.
just you get to unplug. If you have a good excuse like we did with a calf tag to unplug, I would never tell anybody ever in my life to never do that. Just go unplug, figure it out, learn something about yourself, learn about just anything, dude. But learn about the world, learn about a new part of the country that you don't know about, learn about yourself, learn about what it means to have to be able to survive in an environment where you don't have like easy access to all the things that we have easy access to in our daily life. Just get away from it all for a second.
Yep.
Like that in the culmination of things, that is one of my favorite, a lot of favorite moments on this trip. But that, like, if I had to culminate the whole thing into one thing, it was the ability to just unplug from everything, is what I loved about it.
Yeah.
And I would, I, I never had that opportunity to do that in my life. I've never hunted that way, but man, all I want to do is go back. Like I can't, getting back on the computer and going to work and doing all this, and like it doesn't feel right. It
No,
really
it
doesn't
doesn't.
feel
It
right
doesn't.
compared to that. Like going like that was the hardest vacation to ever have to walk back into the like every day 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever. Like because there's an aspect of it where you just realize that like there's only so many things you really need in this world, and if you can get those, you'll be just all right. Like you'll be fine. And yeah, I would encourage anybody to just go experience nature, go experience the wild for a second. You don't have to be hunting. Just go out and push yourself beyond having easily accessible like amenities and get out there and figure out what really matters, and then you'll just have a new outlook on things, in my opinion. I, it was a breath of fresh air. I, I I'll never forget it. I think it was awesome. So
No.
awesome.
And we certainly need to plan a lot more Western hunts together. I'm looking forward. I'm slowly growing my regime, I'll say, of people I'm willing to go hunting out west with. And I'm not afraid to say, Derek, man, you are at the top of that list. I mean, just through that
Yeah.
week, everything we endured, you didn't complain at all. You just kept pushing. You even let your fat 5'8" friend catch up when he was packing meat up the hill and like, I need a break.
Oh man. Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding than uh, like what we talked about before already earlier in the podcast, you had the goal of killing something, right? But then the pack out and whatever possible scenarios that can, allude to, depending on where it goes or where you've been or, where it died and where you did the quartering, etc. I mean, that moment of excitement of yes, we got it done, but now there's another challenge of get it out of here. And granted, it's just a calf, so it's not like we're totally like multiple trips or weighted down or anything, but I mean that satisfaction of uh, what I'll call finishing the goal, right? Like that was, man, that was so satisfying. Let's talk about a little bit what we did after we got out of there. I think you and I both were craving the shit out of the nastiest cheeseburger we could find. And
Absolutely.
I we I didn't care what it was. I don't think you cared what it was. We were just like, what's
No.
the biggest, greasiest fucking cheeseburger we can find? And by
We
God,
stopped at a Carl's Jr.'s.
we went to a Carl's Jr., which was attached to a gas station at a truck stop.
And I got a 2/3 pound burger. What did you get?
Out of I-80, just outside of Laramie. What the hell did I get? Well,
You got
yeah,
like a
we
triple
rolled
burger or
up, and
some crap
I
like that?
asked, I asked Slade. I said, "What is the biggest burger you got on the menu?" I don't even want to think about looking at the menu. Just give me the answer right now. What's the biggest fucking burger you got?
I wish I had that on video. That would so go in the video for this hunt. Just what's
Yeah.
the biggest burger you have on the menu?
I think she was like, you can get the big Carl.
Yeah. She was like, you can get the big Carl and triple for whatever the price was.
Yeah, you can add
Otherwise, the
patty.
next biggest is the 2/3 Angus burger. And I was like, I'll take the 2/3 Angus burger. And Derek goes, I'll take the triple Angus burger. And she goes, we don't have that. We only have the triple big Carl. And he goes, I'll take the triple big Carl.
Yeah, it was like the only triple you could get was the big Carl. Yeah, so I was like, just give me the biggest Carl you ever made. Just give me the biggest fucking Carl. And dude, it didn't take what we
We
yeah.
killed that food. I mean, we pounded that.
I think I took I brought Big Carl to his knees.
I know I had that 2/3 pound burger, a large fry, and a large soda. How's that? You housed your triple big Carl. With,
I housed
my
my triple big Carl before you even finished thinking about your
dude.
fries.
You did. That thing was like 2 bites and it was gone. And I finished my 2/3 Angus burger and everything that went with it. You finished everything that went with yours. We went back to the hotel. We got that hotel in Laramie. We both took a shower, and I remember we're laying in our beds and we're watching South Park. And I just look at you and I'm like, so are you still a little hungry? And you're like, I could eat. And we look at Domino's and Domino's
No.
special words.
The first thing you said, the exact quote that you said was, "So about that Domino's." I swear to God, dude, you're like, "So about that Domino's," because we had talked earlier in the day.
Yeah, we had.
We're like, we want fucking everything, fucking Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's. We're gonna eat it all.
God, like, let's get it all.
Yeah, like stomachs way bigger than our like eyes or whatever. Like we want everything. So Carl's Jr. like kind of
that was the appetizer.
it satisfied us for a little bit, and then we checked into the hotel Friday night, and
We got a
yeah, we
shower.
got
We got a
showers,
shower.
and then you're like, so yeah, no, it was like, so about that Domino's, or so were you serious about that Domino's or something? Because we had talked about Domino's earlier, like it was
And then
something along those lines, and I, oh, no hesitation, I'm like, yes,
yes.
sir, yeah.
And we each get a large one-topping pizza from Domino's.
Dude,
And
they had a
you ate
kick-ass
all
deal. It was like
$8.
up to two larges Domino's pizza for $8. One topping up to $8.
Yeah, and you got
And that's not
uh
counting the cheese. So I
no.
got sausage and you got mushroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And you ate all of yours. I ate all but one slice of mine. And that slice of mine I had for breakfast the next morning. I mean, cold, just fucking
Yeah.
straight down the gullet.
Oh, not even cold. It was room temperature because
Yeah,
that box sat.
room temperature, and I just pounded it. I'm like, I am starving.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to roll out of bed. I see Zach over there like a fucking chipmunk just munching on that last slice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was going in on it. But
You know what though, dude? I mean, top trip of my life. Absolute top trip of my life.
oh, so fun. So fun. I mean it, yeah. And we already talked about a lot of it, but
Dude, this podcast is going on like over 3 hours, I want to say. I'm pretty sure nobody's listening at this point. They're all tired of hearing us talk. But I
well,
mean, we've
and
covered
that's
pretty much
fine.
everything.
Whatever. But I think the camaraderie between me and you. I mean, I think we learned a lot about each other on this trip too. Like,
Oh, absolutely. This trip did nothing but make us better friends, in my opinion.
yeah, exactly. And if anybody listens to this, great. If not, who cares, dude?
Yeah, screw it.
It's
I
still me
mean,
and you, man. We're still bullshitting as if we were just a random call on a Friday night evening because
no, dude. All I'm thinking about is how we got to plan a hunt for next year already.
right. Yeah, I know. What how do we get a hold of some moose tags?
Wait 20 years or pay a stupid amount in Alaska.
Fuck. So there's no DIY in like Alaska?
Well, you can DIY moose in Alaska, but it's still not cheap. And it my understanding is that for moose, you still need to hire a guide or somebody to drop you off. You can do DIY, but it's still like a drop style hunt.
Yeah, that makes sense. Airplane, fly out, drop off or whatever.
Yep.
That's
So,
actually in grizzly country. So
yeah, that's legitimate grizzly country, not just my dad calling me and asking if it's grizzly country, which I should mention we all got to laugh about because we were talking about I think it was like the day before I ended up shooting my elk, how my dad was all worried about this being grizzly country. And then I shoot my elk. I'm on the phone with my dad, and Derek can hear us. Not that I have us on speakerphone, but I mean, iPhone phone calls are just loud in general. And my dad starts bringing up grizzly bears just on his own while we're sitting there talking. He's like, at least you don't got to worry about grizzlies.
yeah.
And I'm on the phone with my dad trying to be serious, and I see Derek laughing about 10 feet away, just like turn his face away, starts hunching over, laughing about it.
Well, for the backstory, and obviously, no offense to your father if he hears.
No, of
this.
course not. I love my father dearly. I'm not making fun of him in any way. That's just a worried father making sure his son's not putting himself in stupid situations.
Yeah, but it's funny because we had that conversation. I think it was either the night before or the previous night before, like about. Well, it started out with like, yeah, like your dad's like asking you like multiple times over a different period of time, like about the Grizzlies, and like you had to keep reassuring him, right? Like this is not because what's a parent's job, right? Is to worry
To
about their
worry.
kids.
Yeah.
And so like obviously your dad was a little concerned, and yeah, and all that, but um no, it was just it was funny because the reason I was laughing, it was funny to me, is because like we had already talked about this and it was a previous experience for
Yep.
you, and we had like yeah, my dad was talking about the Grizzlies, and then in that moment he brought it up again. So that's why it was funny, because he brought it up again.
Yep. Yep.
But I bet, hey man, and then we were like, yeah, we're both getting more mature. Like I'm gonna do the same fucking thing with my kids in a way.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
you can't blame them whatsoever.
No. No,
For
not at
being
all.
concerned, and they just want to make sure that you're covering your bases. Like they don't mean it in a malicious way, like you're stupid and you don't know what you're doing. They just mean it in like a have you considered kind of way. So
Exactly. Exactly. But so we've been going for quite a while here, but there's one thing I still want to touch on here before we officially end the podcast, which is what would you do differently if you had a do-over? Like knowing what you know now, going into day one, what would you change about the hunt?
okay, I'll start that. Um, so I feel like my biggest two takeaways from everything that we just talked about, I would have a better, more concise sleep system. Sleep system, 100%. Especially if you're going to be getting into like sub 40-degree weather. And you have to take into account your elevation and the temperature drop when you go up in elevation. Don't rely on the weather that is the town in, like Laramie, which is at 8,000 something feet versus
Yeah, I
where
should
we were.
mention, I mean, there was a 13 to 15 degree temperature difference between 10,500 feet where we were camping the one night and Laramie, which was 8,000 feet.
Right. And yeah, we'd been kind of looking at the weather for Laramie and not looking at the weather for, we should have picked a better point, like close to the top of the mountain, whatever that would have been, if they even had one. But yeah, sleep system, you're running around like crazy. You know, you are up before the sun and you're going to bed after the sun. And, that constitutes not very many hours of sleep. So if you're going to get not very many hours of sleep, it better be good sleep. So I would work on my sleep system.
Yep.
Um, for me personally, I think the other thing that I would really have liked to have a better option of would have been boots or shoes or whatever it would have been to run around in. I was wearing um, an awesome pair of boots, Irish setter, like snake boots, almost come up all the way to my knees. Um, and I didn't know what to expect in this territory. I didn't know if we were in snake country or not, to be honest with you.
Yep.
But I think what we realized is we were not in snake country. So um, what I had on was a little bit bulky for sure. Not the most comfortable and not the most set up for long durations of hike, like multiple miles a day. Did it work? Yes. Was it the best that I could have done? No. Um, so I think sleep and shoes were definitely at the top for me. Clothing wise, yeah, I think, you get a little more farther into this style of hunting, you'll figure out what you need for clothing and stuff. I think during the day, the clothing is not that thick because you're hiking around and you're moving, you're generating heat, so you don't need a lot. Where the thicker layers for us, the minimal thicker layers that we had came into play was trying to sleep at night, but that again, that was without the sleeping bag of any kind. So again, that comes back around to sleep system and shoes for me. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Those were the two big takeaways that I had.
So my shoe system was pretty well dialed. I'm not too upset about that. I did melt a pair of socks, which I don't think we mentioned before. I melted a pair of First Light socks, which made me pretty upset. We had to go back to Laramie so I could get replacements for those. But my
Oh,
big thing,
you were trying to dry them out by the
yeah, I
fire.
was trying to dry them out and put them a little too close to the fire.
Well, yeah, that's something that should be said. Like you're hiking around all day,
Your
and
socks and your boots are gonna get wet, whether it's by stream or by sweat. They're
either
gonna
have,
get wet.
either have socks that you can rotate or a pair of socks for every single day that you're going to go out. Like,
I'd recommend socks so you can rotate. I'd bring at least 2 pairs of socks. 3 pairs would be pretty optimal, honestly, because then you could have a pair of socks for the day, a clean pair of socks, or a pair of socks that hasn't been used for a day, and a pair of socks you're gonna wear at night and the next morning. And I think that's the best way to go. But um, my big thing that I do differently, same as you, is the sleep system. I mean, I was totally unprepared for sleeping. I really was. I wasn't expecting the temperatures that we got. I wasn't expecting the difficulty.
comfortability
Yeah, the
too.
comfortability. I mean, I don't know how much we really touched on it, but I ended up packing in my sleeping bag probably, what was that, Wednesday night? I want to say Wednesday night we packed in the sleeping bag, and I always keep an emergency blanket on the back seat of my truck, and I let Derek use that as a quote unquote sleeping bag slash blanket, basically. And that seriously improved our quality of sleep.
It made
That
all the
first night I had that sleeping bag was a total game changer. And I quickly realized that my sleep system is not adequate for backcountry hunting, and I certainly need to upgrade that before any future backcountry trips.
yeah. Don't skip the sleep, man. I mean,
I would almost spend money on a sleep, like looking back at what I know now, I would almost spend money on a sleep system over expensive like Western hunting clothing. Like, First Light, Sitka, Kuyu, whatever. I think I'd rather spend money on the sleep system over all of that.
100%. I just walking through that woods, so you're talking about clothing or camo or whatever, like at I think like there is not many different patterns of whatever clothing somebody has that will not match something in that woods. I mean, you had
Yeah.
everything from lights to darks because you have deadfalls, they're super light and dried out, and then you have really darks that are like your pine trees and this and that. It's like so like from a color spectrum or anything like that, it didn't really matter, but just to come back around and hammer on your point, like don't I wouldn't focus on the clothing and the camo per se as much as your comfortability to be able to get good rest to keep performing every single day and get good sleep. Like that's some of my camo that I was wearing, like my puffy jacket thing or whatever, like that's like a duck pattern, but it has like light streaks through it that are basically like whatever switchgrass or whatever, but then it has the
Yeah.
darkers and It all
and it
blends.
worked well.
It all blends. Yeah, it all blends
Yeah.
in at the end of the day. It's not the clothing. Like it's your ability to, like, I would focus your investment on the ability to be able to keep performing every day and keep being able to run around. And certainly that falls back firstly on your sleep. And then, if you want to go from there after sleep, like a good Camelback, a good water filter, as we found, like
Yeah.
you need
Water
you,
filter is clutch.
you want to have a water filter, like you need to invest in the things that are going to keep you out there longer versus the things that is the minutia of like thinking that, oh, something's going to see me if I don't have this specific camo or whatever. Like, no, that's not the gig. Like, because there's plenty of shit to hide behind back there, so the camo's irrelevant. Like,
Yep.
you need to focus your investment on what's going to keep you out there and keep you out there longer and keep you out there longer at performing at the highest level that you want to be at to get success.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's enough about this hunt that we've learned, and we could go on about this for 6, 7, 8 hours probably. Um, but I think it's about time to cut it off just for the listeners' sake. And hopefully the listeners are still here. I know we've been going for quite a ways over 3 hours here, but in my opinion, there hasn't been a downtime really. There hasn't been a situation where this isn't information that I think you'd want to know. And I hope you're still entertained. I hope you're still interested. And I really hope you've gone to the Move Outdoors YouTube channel and watched Persistence, a Wyoming Elk Hunt, and left a comment, left a 5-star review of the podcast, left a like on the YouTube video. And we
No.
appreciate everything you guys have done for us. Listening to the podcast, watching the channel, it all helps us. Every 5-star review helps. Every subscriber helps. Every follower on the podcast helps. We appreciate everything you guys have done. We wouldn't be here without you guys. So I just want to extend that to the listeners that are still here. And Derek, man, it's been awesome. I can't wait till our next hunt. I really can't. I really can't. I'm so excited for the next hunt. I'm hoping maybe next year, depending on my vacation time, we can swing maybe like a Colorado over-the-counter elk hunt with you, me, Joel, Ryan, maybe Tyler, maybe my dad. Get a big group of people in there. Even if not everybody has tags, just get a big group of people in there. Everybody having fun, hanging out at camp. I think it'd be a great experience. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, thank you again. And you're on the move with Move Outdoors.